Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are and whatever time you see this video. Today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Christopher Claytor, and he's running for the congressional position, Congress, from 3rd District, Third Congressional District from Texas. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chris. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Can you help us out in understanding a little bit about yourself and your career and what made you to come into the politics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been a strict conservative, I would say, growing up, specifically a fiscal conservative. I grew up in the United States in the Reagan era, if you will. So everybody seems to love Ronald Reagan as president, and I did too. So much that I actually wanted to join the military and serve my country, and I actually went to the military academy at West Point, starting in 1987. So it's safe to say that I love my country, and I want the United States of America to be the best it possibly can be. And I got into politics because I saw that even though Ronald Reagan was a great Republican, that Republicans are kind of failing us here lately. And I found the Libertarian Party and read their party platform and realized this is the better way to go. And I need to get actively involved to spread the word that there is a third opportunity, a third choice out there. It's not just Republicans or Democrats. There is this third party called Libertarians, and that they have a better way. And I wanted to make sure to get involved and spread the word.
So very nice. Thank you very much. I see the common points between the Libertarian and the Republicans, and also see last few elections, Libertarians has been attracting more of the Republicans into the party and then making them run for on their tickets. So what is the common, and then what is the different? The Libertarian how is the Libertarian Party different from the Democratic Party? Sorry, Republican Party.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So the biggest differences between Libertarians and Republicans are Libertarians are liberal when it comes to social issues. We are for the legalization of all drugs. We are for the gay, lesbian community. Everybody should have equal rights, no matter what. Very strongly for that. We are very much for the woman's right to do whatever she wants to with her own body. And we're very much for, and that includes prostitution even, but we're for the legalization of any crime that is victimless, i.e., as long as you don't hurt somebody else in your day-to-day life and what you're doing, and you're not taking away their rights, then it's not a crime, and you shouldn't be put in prison for it. Biggest example is the drugs. Republicans are staunch. They created the drug war. They want to fight with force. They want to force people to not do drugs. Libertarians are very much, if you choose as an adult to do drugs of whatever type, that is your choice. And as long as you are not hurting somebody else, i.e. you're not forcing somebody else to take those drugs, there's no crime there. And they should not be in prison. Most of America's prisons are full of people who have been arrested and convicted of crimes related to simple marijuana use, marijuana possession. So that is a really big difference between Libertarians and Republicans. Republicans seem to not let that go. They want to punish people for doing crimes such as drugs, prostitution, other quote-unquote vice crimes.
Gotcha. And at the same time, you also mentioned that, you would like the freedom of the woman to do whatever she wants to do with her body. That means it goes more with the Democrats' point of, of the abortion rights and those kind of things. So, right. So how is that relating with this? So you're kind of a mix of both the Republican and the Democratic Party, but same time you're different from the Democratic. So what are ways you're different and away from the Democratic Party?
The biggest difference with the Democrats is we are, as Libertarians, very much strict constitutionalists. So if it is written in the U.S. Constitution, then that's what should be done and should be enforced. That includes the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. Democrats, as you know, are very much gun control advocates and seem to want to go against the Second Amendment. So libertarians are also very staunch supporters of the Second Amendment. Everybody should have the right to defend themselves from the harms of the world and not have to rely on the police or anybody else, but you take care of yourself. And in order to do that, unfortunately, you do need weapons. You do need guns to take care of yourself and defend yourself in some situations.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I'm switching the topic here. I mean, as you have come from the military background, and libertarians also have a different stand on the wars and also the U.S. involvement or U.S. defense and U.S. involvement in the other areas of the world. So what are your views on that?
Yeah, libertarians are, again, back to the Constitution. It says the government shall raise an army for the defense of the United States. It does not say anything about becoming the world's police force, becoming a projection of power, basically imposing our government's will on other people. And so libertarians are very much for reducing the size of the military and going back to that constitutional limit of the military, which is defending our own borders and not being spread around the entire world. Jo Jorgensen is our Libertarian Party nominee for president this year. She'll be running against Joe Biden and Mr. Trump. And she's already said publicly one of the first things she will do is bring all the troops home from wherever they all are scattered all out throughout the world. And once we bring them home to defend our borders, then we can drastically reduce the budget for military and save lots of money as well.
Got you. Thank you very much. At the same time, today we have a different kind of situation right now. I mean, the topic is changing. I mean, to COVID-19. I mean, it's not a war, but kind of whole world is kind of that similar kind of environment with this particular virus. So what do you think how did the federal government handle it and the state governments are handling it, and how is the COVID-19 in your Dallas area, where you're from, in your 3rd district?
Yeah, in the 3rd district right now, it's actually, according to government reports, getting a lot worse. There's a lot more cases. For the longest time, Collin County, where the District 3 is wholly contained in Collin County, and they do the reports by county. The rates of infection and the death rate has been very low. Infection rates have gone up, but fortunately death rates are still very low. I think we're seeing the virus mutate to a point where it may be more infectious, more people would get it, but they're not going to die. They're going to get a little sick. I, for one, am not concerned overly for my personal safety. And I do believe that our state governments, local governments, and federal government has far overreached on what they have done here. They are taking away our personal individual liberties and trying to force us to, you must wear a mask, you must do this, you must do that. And they're making these edicts outside of the law, outside of the Constitution. I don't even think they have the right to do these things. Libertarians are big about individual responsibility. If you, as an individual, take responsibility for your life, your actions, then you get individual liberty. That's always been the equation. But it seems our government, at all levels at this point, wants to take away our individual liberty and usurp our own individual responsibility and tell us what to do in the situation of COVID-19. My belief, libertarians' belief, is individuals should choose, businesses should choose how they want to handle it. If a business says you need to wear a mask before you come into my business, that is their right. That is their choice. But for the government to force it, as Governor Abbott of Texas just did, I believe yesterday or the day before, that is wrong. That is usurping individual rights.
Gotcha. See, I mean, I understand. I mean, every individual should be responsible and behave responsibly. But that is, isn't it? Is a realist. I mean, idealistic situation. I mean, where you're expecting everybody to be as a role model and behave like a gentleman, and then bring harmony in the community. But in the real world, the reality is a little different. I mean, not everybody is same, and not everybody's understandings are same. Not everybody will behave the same way. So there should be some mechanism to make sure at least we are covering minimum safety measures. So from that point of view, don't you think we need some governance here?
I actually do not, and it's also a libertarian belief that we police ourselves. Businesses police themselves. Businesses have the right to say you're not coming in here to shop unless you wear a mask. Well, guess what? That drives public behavior. That's kind of the libertarian view on lots of different things, even major issues such as pollution. Right? If other businesses held other businesses accountable for polluting, then they're not going to do that. Versus saying the government has to come in and pass a law and enforce that. That's one of the big libertarian platform tenets as well. Groups like the EPA should not exist. There's nothing written in the Constitution that the EPA is a federal government organization should exist. Again, individuals, businesses, corporate entities outside of the government can and should have this responsibility and can be held accountable. They're held accountable via the free market, businesses in particular. Because if you don't like, and we see it today to some extent, if you don't like what a company is doing, then you stop shopping there. You can vote with your dollars. Right? There are many corporations that feel that in order to keep businesses coming in right now, they're donating lots of money to Black Lives Matter, for example. And there are other businesses that have their CEOs said something and that the general public does not like, and they're boycotting and they're stopped going to those stores. And so the free market economy can and will police businesses and behavior of folks in certain times, and especially for COVID, I believe.
Gotcha. See, if you brought in another point like EPA. See, if you look at the automotive industry, it's been regulated. I mean, heavily with the EPA. With how much pollution it can release and those kind of things. So if you don't, if you don't take the minimum measures, how will you safeguard the environment and also the health of the people and create some minimum social welfare to the people? Do you think still, without the governance, still you will be able to protect the environment?
Yeah, absolutely. In the case of the car industry in particular, stop buying that car company's car if they're not producing a fuel-efficient vehicle. The government minimum standards for fuel efficiency is, again, that's unnecessary. They're overreaching. They don't need to step in there. The free market will take care of things like that. Water rights has been a big reason for the government throughout history. People, competing farms are like, that you're taking my water. And then the government will step in and say, okay, well, we're going to control all the water. And effectively today across the United States, the federal government and different state governments control all the water supply. The libertarian ideal is, no, that is not supposed to happen. Again, it's an ideal, and it'd be tough to get back to that. But the free market economy can do that as well. You come to business agreements, you write contracts. The government doesn't need to be involved in those things. And it's not constitutional for the government to be involved in water disputes, for example, either.
Gotcha. Okay, those are your views. But yeah, I appreciate your views on these topics. So coming back to another thing, say during the COVID-19 time, we have another social issue coming up, and you also mentioned about it just a few minutes back about the Black Lives Matter. So what is your opinion on the Black Lives Matter right now?
Absolutely, Black Lives Matter. It's a very important cause. But I also feel that, again, with libertarians, we go back to its individual rights and individual responsibility. Every individual life matters, and everybody's individual rights are very important. And if systemically, like the Black Lives Matter group feels, that they need extra emphasis right now. I wholeheartedly agree. Let's put extra emphasis on getting them the individual rights they deserve. But, once we take care of this one, there'll be another group that the government is probably not taking care of. That's also the libertarian view, is that's what we want to overall reduce the size of the federal government. If the size of the federal government is small enough that basically they can't do as much harm to any individual or any group. They can't play favorites if we can get it small enough, and small enough is to its constitutional limits. In the United States Constitution, it says if these things that are enumerated here, if I've missed something, then the rights fall to the people or to the states. And right now we have the federal government usurping anything that's not written in there. They're like, oh, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of you. And the idea that the government will take care of anyone, any group, or not, again, is unconstitutional. It's not in there. They shouldn't be trying to do this. And that's where they fail. They've tried over the centuries. I'm going to step in and take care of this group or that group. And then that leaves another group alienated. Their rights have been trampled on. And yeah, we need to rectify this as quickly as possible. But it's going to happen again to some other group if we don't go to the core of the problem, and that's our federal government is too large, is overstepping its constitutional limits, and we must vote differently. In my opinion, we must not vote for Republican or Democrat, because they're the ones that created this mess over the entire time we've been a country. We need to vote differently and let libertarians come in and give individuals back their rights, all individuals. And then we can see real change.
Gotcha. We got your views on that particular point. Thanks for that. But at the same time, this is COVID-19. The Black Lives Matter movement is also triggered another topic, like defunding the police and the taking out the qualified immunity. So what are your views on those two topics?
Absolutely, the police should not have qualified immunity. I'm not sure of the history of that. I haven't done my research there, but I will. How that came into being. But that is, again, playing favorite. The government has stepped in and played favorites to a certain group of people, the police, and said, the laws of the land that apply to everybody else do not apply to you. That is totally wrong. I don't care what your line of work is. If you kill somebody and it wasn't pure self-defense, then you're a murderer and you need to go to jail. Whatever the law of the land is for life, or even certain states is still the death penalty. That's the immunity thing. I don't know where it came from, but we absolutely must get rid of it as quickly as possible. And I think that'll really hold those individuals in the police forces more accountable. They can't act differently than anybody else in the normal citizenry.
Gotcha. I heard from one of the other shows, I think probably mostly it's from this Spike Cohen show. He said that the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of the police in getting the immunity to them. That's what I heard. So, probably, yeah, we can, and your stand and your party stand is to not to have, police should not have this qualified immunity, which is,
absolutely.
I hear that one from you. So, thank you. And that's what, people have been protesting for right now. Let us see, let the right decision may come out of all this chaos. COVID-19 also exposed one more topic, issue in the country. It's been there before even COVID-19 too, but at least it has exposed it a little much better, in a better way. Our healthcare system, our health systems, it's very not able to handle. We got panicked at some time. Probably our health system will not be able to handle the number of cases we get, and at the same time, not everybody will be able to afford it. Even previous to the COVID-19 too, the cost of the healthcare was very high, and not everybody was able to afford the healthcare in this country. So whereas other countries are able to do better than US. So what is your say on our current healthcare system? So what is that if you go to Congress, what is that will you propose or advocate to change the healthcare system for betterment of the lives of the people?
Well, ultimately, the ideal is a free market healthcare system. That is the libertarian ideal. That's my personal ideal. We're far from it right now, because a free market healthcare system would literally mean you walk into a doctor's office and there would be a menu board, much like at a fast food place, that says checkup $50. Whatever service you would want from the doctor would have a price, and even could be negotiated. Right now, ever since Lyndon Baines Johnson and the Medicare Act in the 60s, it's price fixing. Our U.S. government does price fixing on every service, which then allowed the insurance industry to mushroom into what it is today, to process insurance claims, to appease the federal government and its Medicare and Medicaid to make sure all the paperwork was correct. That is wrong. Again, healthcare is not in the Constitution. The government should not be involved, especially at the federal level, in healthcare. Now, again, that falls to the states. If states want to create their own system under the Constitution, then that's perfectly fine. But it should be to the individual. I'm an individual doctor. I'm providing a service. I would like to get paid XYZ for this service. Free market would say, no, that's too high. I'm going to go down to the street to the other doctor and get a checkup for much less. Right now in America, you cannot do that. And that's what we ideally need to get back to. Dismantling this Medicare, Medicaid structure that's been in place since the 60s will be very difficult. Obamacare took it further into pure socialized medicine and further away from the free market. So we have to dismantle that first as well. It's going to be a long, slow, difficult road. One thing that comes up always to me when I'm talking about this is, well, who will take care of the people who can't pay? Before the 60s, and it's funny, it's an interesting legacy. To this day, many of our hospitals are named after religious organizations. They're Presbyterian, they're Baptist, they're all these different Christian denominations. That's still on the hospital name. It's there because before the 60s, those organizations were started by charitable organizations that wanted to take care of people and would provide their services free to people who could not afford. So we should and we can get back to that, and I think we desperately should get back to that system that existed in America before the government stuck its nose in and really messed it up in the 60s.
Gotcha. So you brought in a couple of points there. So one thing is the free market. When you say the free market, everybody has to pay, and also you interestingly covered the how do the poor people will get the the poor or sometimes some people will be unemployed for some time. They need some money and also the health insurance, so it will be hard for them to get the medical attention or medical treatments. But you said, in the olden days, the charity organizations used to do it. But today we have without the social safety nets. Will it not be hard for them to come back to the have the level playing field and then come back to the competitive job market?
I don't believe so, no. As far as I think everyone in America, regardless of where you come from, regardless of how you were raised, has equal opportunity. And you can squander that opportunity. You can choose not to take part in it. I grew up in a very poor area of southern Ohio. Most of my relatives were on some kind of government assistance, welfare, whatever program, you name it. But at the same time, we had decent public education that existed. I went through a normal public education system, I worked hard, I studied hard, and made it into West Point. And then that made all the difference for my life personally. There's nothing to stop anybody else from doing the same. The opportunity is there. Now, when you get into safety nets, Social Security again was formed back in the late 30s. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It's not in the Constitution. The government is not supposed to pay people money in any way, shape, or form. If the Great Depression is when it was born out of, we need to help these people out. I get the compassion, but at the same time, there were jobs even then out there. There's jobs out there today. It may be quote unquote beneath you, some might think, and I can't do that job, but you know what? If you're willing to work hard and take any job, you can make a living, and then you gain experience, and then you strive for something better, and you gain more experience, and you strive for something better. That opportunity exists for anyone. I don't care what anyone says. Oh no, it's because I'm a different skin color or I'm from this other place. I really don't believe that's there. That's something people tell themselves in their head that, well, you know, woe is me. I'm not willing to work hard enough. And this may be controversial statements. I get it, but that's how I fully believe, and I've lived it. I've got relatives that didn't seize that opportunity. Cousins my age, and you know, they've been in and out of jail, on and off drugs, you know, working small jobs, you know, on and off government assistance their whole lives. It's how you apply yourself.
Gotcha. So I see, I mean, I agree with you on one point. Like, I mean, yes, America has a lot of opportunities, and everybody will come here and then do work hard and then make their American dream, no doubt about it. But if you look at last, I mean, years, I mean, it's been like there's even the economy is doing good. It is not doing good for everybody. I mean, some people are the gap is being widened. Like, I mean, some people are getting richer and richer, and even though you're getting the jobs, people are getting jobs and they're getting the decent salaries and their income. But still, if you look at the the income what they're getting, if you compare with, I mean, 10 years or 15 years back, I mean, the whatever they can buy with that 100K or 50K, it is not the same as what they can buy today. I mean, they're not able to afford the same things what they were able to afford a few years back. So that is driving the young guys, I mean, especially join the movements like a Bernie Sanders movement, or let it be the Green Party movement, and where they wanted the free healthcare or free college education. So don't you think so? I mean, that gap is widening, and that is forcing people to think of getting all this social welfare facilities from the government.
Yeah, I definitely think the gap is widening, but I also blame the government for this. Again, and people in Congress, whatever level of government, look at these situations and they think, aha, I know how to fix this. I would say you're wrong in thinking that way to start with, but they create programs that, well, I'm going to send money to these people. I'm going to favor, unfortunately, this always favors one group over another. The government is creating these inequities, these disparities amongst different groups because of the way these programs are structured. If we could just reduce the size of our government, which would reduce our tax burden, reduce corporate tax burdens, they would create more jobs. The free market economy would increase everybody. The famous phrase is a rising tide lifts all boats. When the government gets involved and creates specialized programs to take care of this group or that group, then it just really messes with the free market economy. And I think people that study economics, macroeconomics, which I have a little bit in college, really understand how messing with that free market can just turn things all a kilter and punish certain groups over other groups. And unfortunately, again, I don't think the government's intending to punish anybody. It's good and it's have best intentions. I'm going to help, but then it just creates problems elsewhere.
Got you. So I mean, your party and you've been talking about, I mean, less involvement of the government and the public lives. That is good, but I'd say this brings me one question. To ask. I mean, let us see everybody. If you look at any congressman, okay, or anybody who's running for the government, let it be Congress or Senate or anything, their agenda is to, I mean, talk about, okay, I will fix the healthcare, I will fix the education, I will fix the employment issues, or I fix these kind of things. So when everybody is running on these agendas, and where you are saying that, I mean, we should not be involved in these things. So what should the congressman or a senator should be doing if they should not be involved in the government? So what should they be working on if they are elected then?
So you take it back to its core, the U.S. Constitution. The government exists, Congress, the Senate exist to make sure people's individual rights are protected. It's been twisted over time that I think genuinely these folks think, I'm here, I was elected to take care of people. They're not. Their job is not to take care of people. The job is to make sure individuals' rights are protected, such that I have free speech. I have the right to go worship whoever I want. I can carry a gun if I want. And like I said, they've twisted it to, oh, there's an emergency, there's a crisis, oh, I need to protect these people. That's not the role of government. So as a congressperson, if elected, I would also start dismantling these government programs. You talk about defund the police. I would defund the military. I would defund the Department of Education. I would defund all these departments that are not in the Constitution, that the government should not be doing. So passing legislation is to bring us back to the core. Reduce, and I would say ultimately that reduces the tax burden on individuals. Now everybody has more money in their pocket from their labors, their hard work that they did. They keep more of it, and then if they want to give more to charities, there's charities are going to have more money. You can take care of those that are still haven't found a job. But asking the government to step in and take care of people and individuals asking for that. I mean, you see that with, like I said, to mention the Bernie Sanders movement. They're just begging the government, come take care of me. That is the opposite of libertarians. Again, that's not individual responsibility. That's I want to be a baby and take care of me. Somebody take care of me. It's going to be a long, slow road to change those attitudes as well. But it can be done, I believe, and it can be done in my lifetime, and that's why I run. I want to make a difference, get back to these ideals.
Gotcha. Thank you. I mean, that's a good way to express your views on this. So you also mentioned that, I mean, the public education is the one which has helped you in becoming what you are today. So, but at the same time, you're saying that, I mean, we need to defund the education system too. So how does it, I mean, is it working? I mean, will help the other people to take advantage of the current education system and grow in their lives and become financially independent. So I mean, if you dismantle this education system, what are your plans on this one then?
Well, I'm not saying dismantle the education system. I'm saying just do away with the federal Department of Education. Again, this is, as written in the Constitution, something that's not there. The federal government should not be involved, but then falls to the states or to the people. In the earliest days of our country, it fell to the people. Local communities pulled together and said, we're going to create a school for our community. The concept still exists, especially in Texas. They call it ISDs, or independent school districts. The irony is an ISD is not in any way, shape, or form independent any longer. They're relying on state funding. They're relying on federal funding. And with that funding comes strings. There comes mandates from those higher levels that you must do things this way. We need to get back to the local community funding by voluntarily funding a school system and providing the best possible education for that local community, and getting these state mandates and these federal mandates out of the way, and letting, again, community involvement, local parent involvement. That's who should define how the local education is done.
Right. So you mean to say, I mean, the local schools should be run by the local communities, and they should be able to find the funding for the schools on their own. So don't you think, I mean, it will drive the schools to the collecting money from the students or their parents, and which will again, I mean, conflict of people coming from the getting advantage of the public system of getting a good education, then becoming good people in the life. Or don't you think so?
No, I actually don't, because again, everybody has their individual responsibility, individual liberty. They have the freedom to choose where I live, where I move to. In Texas we have they literally call it the Robin Hood system. Property taxes are very high in the state of Texas. I think most people have heard that, and all the money goes back to Austin, and then Austin then redistributes it back out to everybody in a disproportionate manner. So, again, I'm running for federal office, so I don't really want to get involved in state politics too much, but that's an unfair funding model. There needs to be a better way. libertarian view is ultimately we get back to a free market economy. It's a service. I want education. I pay for education, even at all levels. I pay the local school district a fee to send my kid to school. And again, yes, there will be those that can't afford to pay. Charitable organizations step in and fill that void. They did in the 1800s. They can and do that today if we just stop relying on our government so much.
Gotcha.
And again, and I also feel those charitable organizations will have more money to do that once we reduce the size of the federal government and reduce the tax burden. More people will give more money to those charities. They can definitely step up and fill that gap.
Gotcha. Okay, but so, don't you think that both are the same then? I mean, instead of coming from the charity, it is coming from the government. I mean, so how is it different from coming from a charity or coming from a government then? Sorry to ask you
No, that's fine. You as an individual have a choice. So, say I'm an individual. I'm working hard, but I still don't have enough money to pay for my kids to go to school. And so you can shop around. Okay, there's a charitable school over here that my kid can go to for free. They're really good, but I don't believe, because again, they're usually belief based. So, but I don't believe what they believe. Okay, well then there's this other one down the road that they're a pretty good school, and I believe what they believe. So I'm going to send my kid to that school. Right? It becomes an individual choice, not the government telling an individual or parent what they can and can't do.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much for your views on that. And coming back to you also mentioned in the beginning that, I mean, you libertarians and you also like the freedom to own the guns. So especially the Second Amendment. I know that many people, I mean, they like and love the Second Amendment in the country, but at the same time, in the last few years, we've been seeing many cases where people have been getting killed. The loved ones and the children, schools, colleges, and the theaters, malls, and all these things. So how do you strike a balance between your Second Amendment and the safety in the community then?
Well, again, it goes back to individual responsibility. If you own a gun, you need to make sure you are trained on how to handle that gun and be safe with it. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. There's going to be incidences where the person didn't secure their gun, their kid, snuck into their bedroom and pulled it out of the drawer and kills themselves accidentally. That's very unfortunate that happens. But that's the parent's fault for not taking care of that weapon and securing it properly. And that's a very individual level. At a corporate level, I think you kind of hinted at safety in schools. It's interesting to note that every mass shooting in the United States has occurred in a quote-unquote government gun-free zone, because people who have a weapon and want to inflict harm know the best place to do that is someplace where nobody else is going to have a weapon and can't hurt me back. That's why one of the last mass shootings here in Texas, it was proposed that every teacher arm themselves and have a gun, so that if somebody comes into that school and wants to harm people, then that teacher can immediately take care of them before they hurt anybody, or maybe definitely lessen the blow. The Second Amendment was written for us as individuals to protect ourselves from harm. The cops, government can't come in fast enough to protect you in situations like that. But if individuals in a school, at a college, in a store, wherever you're at, if individuals have that weapon right there at the ready, they're trained well, they know how to use it, then they can take out the threat in seconds. And there are some stories that sometimes make the media where individuals that came in wanting to do harm were stopped after doing very minimal or no damage, because there were people there that used their Second Amendment right to protect themselves and all the people around them.
Gotcha. So you have been talking about the free economy, I mean, free market economy driven, market driven economy. But recently we have been into the different kinds of wars, like a trade war or trade tariff wars, I mean, with other countries. So what is your view on those trade wars on this?
Well, the intent of those trade wars is to increase the free market at the macro level, because you do have countries that don't want a free market. You have countries that want to say, if you want to do business with us, you're going to pay a penalty. You're going to pay a tariff. Libertarians as a whole are against tariffs as well, because again, that is one country or large organization trying to change the free market and make it in favor of themselves. So a trade war, quote unquote, is a way to exert some leverage, exert some influence that what you're doing, charging me these tariffs, is wrong and you need to stop. Now, it's a dangerous game, and Trump has been able to do that to different levels of success. Don't get me wrong. I'm a libertarian. I'm going to be voting for Joe Jorgensen for president. I don't like Trump as an individual. I'll tell people that straight up. But he has done a few things to help the free market economy, and the trade war is one of them. Because, again, the idea is to level the playing field. Nobody should be charging tariffs. It should be, quote unquote, a true free market.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. I mean, your party and your yourself have few points, I mean, which are appealing to some people. But at the same time, if you look at the elections, it's been a long path for your party to get into the Congress or get elected in any of the. I think we have only one gentleman in the Congress from your party. So it's such a long. So what do you see the path? Is there any path for your party or your run to get elected into the Congress?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of people in America vote out of fear. They're afraid the other person, if they're Democrat, they're afraid the Republican's going to get in and mess up their lives, or if the Republicans, vice versa, right? And the core of that problem is the government is too big and can create that fear. And that's not going to change unless people stop being afraid and literally take a chance on a different party, the Libertarians. Studies have been done that show a vast majority, well over 50% of Americans think like Libertarians. Like I can respect that, I can get behind that, but they won't, when it comes time to go vote, they won't vote that way. And again, I think they're too afraid. They're too afraid of the government. They're too afraid of that other candidate and what they'll do to me. The problem has been we've, as a society, have given so much power to the federal government over the years that we've put ourselves into this position of being afraid of the government. Again, that's not going to change unless we be bold. And people think I'm going to go protest and be bold in this protest, and that's great. But where you really have an impact is be bold and be brave and go out and vote differently. You don't need a protest in the street. You need to just vote differently. Stop voting for that same old Democrat, that same old Republican that's created all the problems that we're in today.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for sharing your views. So do you have any message to our audience or the listeners or your constituents?
Just that. Be bold, be brave. Check out the Libertarian Party. You may not agree with everything, but I guarantee you, if you vote Libertarians into office, things will be different. The way that our society, the government acts today, if there's a significant amount of Libertarians elected, things will change. And I would argue change for the better for everyone.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Do you want to add any other points or anything right now? I think we are, you did all your points or views so far. Thank you very much for your time and coming on to the show.
Yes, thank you very much.
We wish you all the best. So.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good day.
Good day.